What's going on? Give me a wave. How y'all feeling? If you feeling good, as I turn this down, if you're feeling good, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up in the comments if you're feeling good. If y'all feeling good, I'm feeling all right. Welcome to STEMedia Live. Welcome. Shout out to everybody watching on replay. Much love to you all. Shout out to everybody watching on YouTube. The family I'm watching on YouTube. This is, of course, simulcasted to YouTube. STEMedia Live is the place where we interview and we chat with some of the most inspirational and creative people in the STEM community. I'm your host, Dr. Nehemiah Mabry, and today is no exception. I'm excited. But y'all, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you're feeling good. Nia's feeling good. I love it. Thanks for the thumbs up. I'm excited, man, because today is no exception. As I always say, if you are watching on YouTube, right now, please do me the huge favor of hitting subscribe, commenting below. Brianna, thank you so much for the thumbs up. Hey, if y'all haven't subscribed to STEMedia on YouTube, everybody on Instagram, if you haven't subscribed to STEMedia on YouTube, please go over to YouTube. When you get a chance, type in STEMedia. In fact, right now, live from our channel, you can see me right now. Maybe a few seconds delayed, but listen, that is always what we like to do. What up, Bradley? How you feeling, Bradley? Give me a thumbs up if you're feeling good, Bradley. I want to know how you feeling today, too, man. We coming to you live and direct. In case you did not know, STEMedia Live is brought to you by the STEMedia Network. That's right. STEMedia.com is our beta network streaming service, live coming to you direct on iOS and Android devices as well as Roku. Yes, this will be also featured on there at some point. Go to STEMedia.com and get exclusive interviews. Courses are on the way. Become a part of the network. Be your boy's friend. You know what I mean? Come and join us all. Thanks for the thumbs up, Bradley. Kelly, my friend, good to see you. All right. Give me some hearts, y'all, if y'all ready to meet today's guest, this evening's guest. I'm excited. This is a long overdue one. I feel like everybody I bring on now is just people that I've just been looking forward to chatting with. And I think that you all will enjoy this guest this evening. Her name is Miss Teressa Alexander. Her STEM journey began in aviation. This is funny because if you saw the title, our title has to do with her study in plant science. However, as an undergraduate physics major at Morgan State University, she worked in research labs studying cancer biology and insect biomechanics. However, after graduation, she discovered her passion for plant physiology as a research fellow at Harvard University for 2 years. Shout out to Harvard. She now focuses on linking genotypic differences to drought tolerances in cacao trees under climate change. Teressa has always had a strong desire to contribute to the significant upliftment of women and girls in science, build a network of Caribbean STEM professionals, and engage Caribbean youth in STEM. All right, family, y'all, let's get the hearts going. Let's get the love going because I'm about to bring to STEMedia Live this evening. I present to some, introduce to others. Teressa! You see the hearts are coming your way. The hearts are coming. The love is coming. Shout out to you.
Hey, Dion.
Oh, you see some of your people?
Yeah,
you see some of your people on?
Dion is one of my mentees. She's really interested in science communication, and she's from Barbados. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, we got Caribbean. We got Caribbean representing tonight. And you know what's so cool? Because for y'all who don't know, Teressa is joining us live and direct from the Caribbean right now. Am I right?
Yes.
Yay! You're in Trinidad right now. Yes. So listen, we're gonna definitely we're not gonna claim like constant signal, no issues about this entire chat. Because we've had people from the West Coast sometimes, and I don't know, but I got a feeling this is gonna be great coming straight from Trini right now this evening.
Yep.
So yep. Hey girl, BME Queen says shout out to you.
Yes.
All right, so check this out. Check this out. You've seen the show, Teressa. We've asked this question 1,000 times, and so now it's your turn to answer this. As we kick off this conversation, give us a random fun fact about yourself as we start this conversation.
So a lot of people don't know that I know how to sew. So when I was I know how to sew. Yeah. So,
you know how to sew? Okay, got you.
Yeah. So when I was younger. A cousin of mine and we always wanted to have like a fashion line, and so I was in school, in secondary school, which is high school in the States. I did clothing and textiles and arts, And that was the subjects that I specialized in basically in secondary school. So I wanted to have
Really?
line one day. So maybe one day.
So what was like the most impressive thing that you've ever made, you ever sold that you were like, man, I can't believe I did that, but I'm so proud of it.
Man, a dress I went to a wedding, but I didn't sell anything. But when I was an undergrad for like a side hustle, I bought a sewing machine. I had a sewing machine, and I was actually making throw pillows.
Really?
To sell, yeah.
That's impressive, Teressa. But I have to say, like, the fact that you actually made a dress that you wore to a wedding is impressive as well. Because like weddings, that's like usually when you bring like your top notch, like you're not trying to come shabby to a wedding, but you had the confidence to put together your own outfit, your own ensemble. Y'all gotta give her some hearts, give her some love for that, because that is impressive.
Original, you know, you have something original in your own style, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So you put that on hold? You haven't been back to like sewing in a minute? You haven't done that in a while?
Not in a while, especially like being in labs and doing research and, you know, like grad school.
Yeah, I know how it is, man.
But I always wanted to go back into arts. I always wanted to like, because I really like abstract arts.
Yeah.
Not like the literal stuff like drawing bowls of fruit, but like my own idea of what a bowl of fruit would look like. And so I always wanted to like create my own fabrics.
Right.
So then sew using the fabric. Yeah. So that's kind of
I got it. Well, y'all, listen, this is Teressa Alexander, the plant sciences researcher, and I can concur. You are a creative person, and I'm going to ask you some questions about just some of the art that I see you put out on the socials. We'll get to that in a little bit. Y'all hang on. We're going to definitely talk about all of it. But one of the things I found interesting about your story, Teressa, is that I understand that you had not met a scientist from the Caribbean prior to going to college. Like all your life until you got to college, you didn't meet a scientist from the Caribbean. Tell us about that, man. That experience.
So when I was like in primary school, I knew like I was interested in math and science. So we had like four subjects you would look at. So there's social studies, there's science, there's math and English, right? But I was better at Spanish than English. And then on top of that, I was better at math and science. So I knew like going into secondary school, I wanted to get into science. So that's the area I wanted to get into. But we were never, at the time when I was in school, and it may be very different now, but when I was in school, there was never someone who brought that as an option. Like becoming a scientist was an option. And I've always had as a young kid, I was always interested in like astronomy and space exploration and things like that.
Stars and everything, the universe. You were into the universe.
And I feel like that was one of the first words like I was intrigued by was in astronomy and stuff. So I knew like going into like secondary school, I knew like I really wanted to do physics because I knew like physics was directly related to that type of studies. But and then too, like I was fascinated with aircrafts. I was just a weird kid. Sorry.
No, that's not weird at all. That's not weird. But I tell you what is weird though. Like again, we're going to be talking about your interest in biomechanics and plant research, but like the fact that your bio starts off with you went to college studying aviation. It's like, what? Aviation, plant, like I don't know. Like this is an interesting little journey. But I understand that like you didn't get your bachelor's degree, but you started at the University of the West Indies?
No. I started at a community college in the U.S.
Community college, okay. Gotcha.
But before I migrated to the U.S., I was actually at sort of like a community college in Trinidad. And it was really because, you know, being in this thing where I was like, I want to become a pilot. Like, I want to fly planes and all this stuff.
All right, now. Bessie Coleman is up here in the Caribbean.
Bessie Coleman, too. I was like, I want to see somebody who looked like me flying planes.
I dig it.
We saw that living in Trinidad. We used to look at, like, I used to look at pilots like they were gods. So I was like, I want to be a pilot. That was just my focus the entire time.
Right.
So when I came out of school, I was still in Trinidad, and my mom was like, all right, so what next? I was like, I think I want to go into like engineering and stuff, right? And I went into this school, and the principal didn't feel comfortable putting me in the class because it was such a male-dominated space. and I was like 16 years old, and he wanted to steer us into a different area to make himself feel comfortable, I guess, because he was like,
right.
You know, I don't think like she will be like the only girl in the class, and there's like older men. So
right.
I ended up going into community college here first, and it was to do like environmental tech. I hated it the first semester, and then I told my mom like I hate this, and the principal said if I hated it to come back, right? And my mom was like, no, you're gonna.
If you hated it, come back. Like, what do you mean? Like, if you hate it, come back. Like, go.
He said if you spend one semester there and you don't like the program, come back.
Okay.
So
try it out again.
And then I told my mom, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do my engineering thing. She's like, no. I was 18 at the time, so I can't tell her, you know. And she's
yeah.
So I'm like, fine, whatever. But when the chance came to like migrate, I was like, oh, I know all the aviation programs, my family, where I'm going to be living.
Right.
So I knew all the programs that were accredited, and of course, like I had to start over. So I was like, let me start over going to.
Okay, so I want to jump in there real quick. When you say migrate, you're talking about come from Trinidad to the United States.
Yeah.
And you said you knew all the aviation programs, all the different programs where you could go and get into into flying planes. Huh?
So funny story about how I know the programs. So one of my sister's ex-boyfriends, he knew that I was obsessed with planes. So he worked as a mechanical engineer, and he worked with planes. So he sent me this magazine, and at the back of the magazine had all the accredited programs in the U.S.
Ah, so you just looked at the list and was like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I know which ones in Maryland I'm going to look at. Bam, bam. I saw there's like a direct program from the Community College of Baltimore County into University of Maryland Eastern Shore. And I was like, I'm going to do that program. And that's how I ended up at UBC,
Yeah, so check it out, y'all. This is Teressa Alexander, the Trinidadian airplane-loving young lady that went to community college. She wasn't digging the tech program. She did some other associate's program. Wasn't digging. So you decided to come to the United States, and you attended the HBCU known as Morgan State University. Shout out to HBCU grads and students. She has a funny story about Morgan State. And I don't know a whole lot about Morgan State, so maybe you can tell us a little bit. I know it's in Baltimore, Maryland. I know the mascot is the Bears. But how did you end up being among the what did you call it? The pack or the bear? What do you call a group of bears?
The Morgan.
How do you become a part of the Bears?
So when I was finishing up the associate degree from the community college Baltimore County, I was like, I'm gonna take a break from college, right? And then I was on my way home. So every year that I spent in the US, I was like, I'm gonna make it my mission to go home every birthday. So on the flight going home, I met this guy who asked me to look after his luggage. And I was like, yeah, sure, you know whatever. And when he comes back, he started telling me about Morgan. And apparently he was a director of international relations at Morgan.
Oh, wow. So he kind of like low-key recruited you right there.
Exactly, in the airport. So my mom actually went to Howard University.
Okay.
And so she was pushing me to go to a HBCU. She was like, you should
HBCU.
go to Howard. You should go to
East
Howard.
Coast. Yeah.
Like, apply to Howard. And I was like, all right, I'll apply to Howard. I applied to Morgan. I got into both. But for me, financially, I was like, I think, you know, staying in Maryland, and because I was already set there in a way, I was like, I can afford to go to Morgan. I got offered more from Morgan. And Howard is out kind of like, you know, out of the way. So I was like, I'll go to Morgan. And I felt like the program that I saw there was a bit more my field. So I was like, all right.
Right. Okay. Hey, shout out to New. New says we are the Bears. So I'm glad you went to Morgan. She making sure I get it right. Like we can't be sleeping. We can't be messing up Morgan State. Shout out to, I got some friends who went to Morgan State. And y'all, this is Teressa Alexander. And Teressa, you have a really interesting story that I can't wait for everybody to hear. about how you started your first interest into the world of biomechanics. All right. So let's just talk about what biomechanics is. Give us a quick go Bears. That's right, Keisha. Give us a quick synopsis of what biomechanics is, and then tell us about that first research you had that involved some creepy crawlies.
So biomechanics is, the application of what you learn in biology, and then in the biology of animal locomotion, or you can learn it from plants as well, and you could then play that into something sort of like into robotic models. That was my first sort of introduction into biomechanics. It was
robotic models of how. Okay.
Us learning from animals, and then making that into something that was like an electromechanical system, like a robot. Biological systems to basically mechanical applications.
Yes.
And
so you came to a lab. What now? Go ahead.
So Billy, who you had on last time, when he was talking about biomimicry. So
yeah.
Right. So it's that's how I was actually brought into it. So there was biomimicry and sort of bio-inspired technologies, but my advisor was like more like on the bio-inspired side. So
okay.
But I know about biomimicry through that.
And so what was that first one, y'all? Get a load of this. What was the first bio mimic study or bio-inspired study you did when you was at Morgan, I think?
Yeah. So it wasn't, I was working in a lab where it was biophysics because at this point in time, I was kind of bored with the physics research I was doing.
Right.
I want to see what else there is. Like, what can I apply physics to? And I worked with this guy, and we were doing protein crystallography, and it was like drug design for cancer. And so I got kind of like, I'm losing the physics and the mechanics side of things. And the reason why I love physics is because of classical mechanics. So
right, that's interesting. Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I'm losing that part of it. So this is more like chemistry and molecular biology. So I was like, this ain't really me. So I started to look again, and that's how I fell into this biomechanics space. And I called a guy because he wasn't answering the program director's emails, and I was like, but this stuff looks interesting, and I wanna find out more about it. So I started nagging the guy basically, and so we ended up having a conversation on the phone, and he was telling me about the different animals he works with, and he was just like,
and what was that?
Yeah, he works with lizard. He works with
lizards. Okay.
Iguanas. He works with cockroaches.
That's what I was waiting for you to get to.
Right,
that's what I was waiting for you to get to. Cockroaches. Okay.
There was some other creepy, not ants, but there was an ants project, I believe. But yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. This sounds interesting.
He's like, yo, let me get with some cockroaches and some lizards and stuff.
Right. But I think what intrigued me the most is when he said, like, we look at the physics of locomotion, the mechanics of the animal.
Right.
And then we apply that to something mechanics, to like a robotic model. And I was like, I'm sold. All right, I'm coming.
Right. And I understand too, like you said, because you already mentioned earlier how like back at home, people weren't really thinking, oh, this is male dominated. You as a female not really going to be interested in it. And then now, I mean, I'm sure you had other experiences, but what was the kind of reaction to the lab when they were like, oh yeah, I'm interested in it? Like, I'm sure like not everybody was like gung-ho to study these things, but for you, it was like, oh, okay, let's check it out. What these cockroaches and lizards talking about?
I feel like when you live in the islands, it's sort of like the way we build our houses is you're still open to the elements in a way.
True.
Because like if you look at the way houses are structured in the US, like you'll have central air and everything is closed off. It's not really like that. So you can have lizards roaming around, like the small animal lizards roaming around your home. If you've ever been to the tropics, like you could see insects on the wall, like grasshoppers.
Yeah, I went to Virgin Islands.
So I'm sort of accustomed to that anyway, because I used to laugh. I used to make jokes and tell people like I live in a small rainforest because my mom loves plants, and so that's kind of how I kind of got into that too, because my mom just loved plants, and we always had like so many trees and stuff. So I used to see all these things all the time. Seeing an iguana is nothing. Like, I mean,
nothing. Yeah,
nothing.
yeah. It's like a squirrel over here. Like we see squirrels all the time, and you're just like, yeah, that's an iguana. You know,
Exactly.
that's a lizard. Yeah. But so break it down. Give us a visual. Biomech Queen got some emojis up there. Give us a visual of this how studying cockroaches or lizards. Like, what did that involve? Like, tell us, because I understand that the goal is to be inspired by their movement and how they get around. But what is your actual
robotic model? So their lab is basically sectioned off into two. So they have a robotic section, and then they have the biology lab. But the biology lab basically looks like an engineering lab.
Okay.
And so what we were doing was trying to understand how the neural system and the mechanical system work together to correct the gaits of the cockroach if you perturb it. So if you could imagine, like, if you have a robotic model and somebody kicks it and it falls, you want the robot to be able to recover, right? And so we wanted to understand, you know, because cockroaches have such a simple neural system, it's easy to sort of see in a way like what they do. Do they actually use their little brains to correct themselves or not? And I think
is it natural? Is it instinctive or not?
Yeah. Because you have like there's also something where there's like a circadian rhythm. So if you while it's running, it's probably not even using its mind while it's running, right? And so if I perturb it, it may not use its brain at all. It might just keep going because that's just how the rhythm is. But it involves
that's amazing.
It involves some cool surgeries and stuff, you know.
Right, and that hurts. Shout out to the researcher. I was listening to your interview on that podcast, and you talked a little bit about how y'all had to like attach like little, I don't know, devices or sensors or stuff to the actual legs or the bodies of the cockroaches in order to monitor the stuff.
Right. So we actually put nanowires into the
like insect surgery, y'all. This is Teressa Alexander doing insect surgery. Okay, go ahead.
That's exactly why I was so intrigued by it. I was like, people do this stuff here? Like, so he was showing it to me, and I thought this was ridiculous. But he was like, no, what you do is you put the could put the cockroach in ice, on ice. And what it does is sort of, it's like an anesthetic to them, so they don't move.
Right.
And then because they're not moving, you could like manipulate their legs and do whatever you want. So it's you know, you puncture the leg, you insert a nanowire, you seal it in, and then you test to see if you can see the neurons firing to the system, which is the muscles of the leg. So,
may y'all give her some hearts, give her some love for breaking down biomechanics. And you all obviously study more than just cockroaches, but I felt like that was just fascinating. You broke it down for us. And you know what's so cool, Teressa, as I listen to your story, and you're going to share us how you got to plant research, but like, I feel like research involves so many skills. And like, you're basically like a surgeon, you know what I mean? Doing this stuff. In addition to an engineer, in addition to like, I don't know, like a flat out science, like you were doing all these different types of things in this one lab. And so I guess that it obviously sort of translated when you were introduced to sort of, I guess, a different form of biomechanics after you left Morgan, right? Tell us a little bit about that next phase.
So I went to conferences presenting what I had done with the cockroaches. And and the same professor that taught me, he wanted to bring together all of the students and his past students who became professors, and we all had dinner together. And there was just this one girl. So, you know, like in a sea of men, you see one girl, you're like, well, let me talk to this girl. Who is she? And I just
right. What's her story? Yeah.
And so we just started talking, and she was telling me like, yo, I'm at Harvard, and I'm going to be doing some flight biomechanics work. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, what's flight biomechanics? And she was telling me, like, you know, she works with birds, and she studies how they fly and like their movement. So I was like, all right, cool. I'd like to check that out maybe one day. But it took me back to the days when I was in aviation. And now I'm so intrigued by biomechanics, and this is what I want to do. So here I am listening to this girl telling me about aviation again. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So she just was like, yeah, anytime if you come down to Boston, I'll house you. You can stay with me for 4 days. I'm like, I don't even know this girl like this.
You didn't even know her. She's like inviting you over to the crib, to the lab, to the cookout. Like, come on.
I was like, I didn't even know her like that. But she was so sweet, and she was like, yeah, you can come and stay with me for 4 days. I'll show you around the lab, show you what I do. Right. You can meet my PI, and that's right. And so while I was there, she was like, you got to meet Stacy. I was like, all right, whatever. I'm here for like one more day. Let me see who Stacy is. I met with Stacy, and she was doing insect biomechanics, and she was working on dragonflies. And it was it's like how, I guess like they were doing like these high speed videos of like how
slowing down their wings, like looking at how the wings.
Dragonflies catch their prey.
Okay.
And it was just
that sounds interesting.
Cool footage.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, this looks like something really interesting. And then it's obviously it can be applied to like UAVs, unmanned air vehicle stuff if you wanted to create something like that. And it's also bio-inspired. It's also under bio-inspired technologies. You learn dragonflies, their movement, whatever. But what happened is, so I go back to Morgan. I'm working with one of my PIs that I worked with in the cockroach work. I'm working with him afterwards, and he was like, okay, so what do you want to do moving forward? And I was like, I want to continue this research, and he put me on to one of his students, and I started working with him again with the cockroaches, but it was like on screen. I was digitizing their movement.
Digitizing the cockroach movement, okay.
Yeah. And then, I was kind of still thinking about what I had seen Stacy doing, and I just emailed her, just kind of asking her some random stuff, and she emailed me back, basically telling me like, yo, come for the summer. Why don't you come for the summer? I'll pay you. I got money. And I was like, all right.
What? Look at that. Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like.
So that turned into, was that the fellowship, or was that just like so that wasn't even a fellowship? Okay. So before you get into how that turned into a fellowship, I mean, obviously you're a person who are just naturally, you're inquisitive, you're curious, and you're not afraid to put yourself out there. I mean, I think anybody who migrates to the States, who's just like, not a drive away from home, is kind of like, they have confidence. They obviously brave in some regard. So what did you learn about like, being able to put yourself out there, or finding opportunity? Because right now it seems like all this is making sense in hindsight, but like, what was it about you that you found was useful when it comes to like putting yourself out there? Like, what was your mindset when it came to searching for opportunities?
I guess, I was just on a mission to just go to school, get a degree, and have financial stability. That's kind of what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking on a bachelor's degree, honestly. I was just thinking like, I know I want to get a bachelor's degree. I know I want to just working in a field that I'm so interested in, I'm passionate about. It was, being in at Morgan, it just, the opportunities to do research just came around, and I just kind of took it because, doing a physics degree isn't so easy, right? And it comes with its challenges, and I think because I had to finance a portion of my education, I was kind of like, yo, I want to know what this degree is going to get me.
Right.
Where it's going to take me.
Yeah.
What I can use this for.
Right.
So I was just in a search. And that's I guess like that was my motivation to kind of like go out there and put myself out there, and like any kind of research that I see happening, like me getting into being at Johns Hopkins for my first set of research I was really interested in, which was the protein crystallography research. It was just me going up to the guy after his seminar and being like, yo, I really like what you're doing there. Can I see your lab? I didn't even care to like want to work with him. I was just like, hey, can I see your lab?
That is good though. That is good. Again, like I feel like again when you follow your curiosity, when you're not afraid to go up to do it, like you said, ask somebody after presentation, like, yo, let me see your lab. What are you doing? You didn't like write it off and be like, oh, there's no chance. You still just kind of followed your nose, and there you are, learning more about these different opportunities.
I could have
Yeah.
gave up. I could have gave up when I wanted to do the biomechanics stuff, and I would have lost out on something that I'm extremely mind blown by because
Yeah.
the guy wasn't actually responding to my director at all. I could have just been like,
Yeah.
look somewhere else. I got his phone number, I got his email, and I started calling him. I started.
Hey, do not be bashful. Yes. Yeah. Yep. But then, okay, so take us back then. I guess you reached back out, you emailed the person at Harvard and say, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And they're like, come over here for the summer. We'll give you a stipend. Come up to Boston. Caribbean girl, come up to the cold, wet. Well, it's summertime, so it wasn't cold, I guess, then. But you got to Harvard, and how did that lead to more time there? Like, walk us through that period.
So it was a great summer research experience. We took so much time trying to build the arena that we only had like a couple of weeks left to actually do data collection. And so,
arena for the flight, like you had to build an arena for the bumblebees to fly. Okay.
This is crazy. You could actually buy bumblebees, and they come in a box, right? So we have to.
You got the bumblebees.
Right. So we had a box of bumblebees, and we needed to cage them. And so we were basically like building an arena because we wanted to understand how they fly through vegetation, because that sort of affects their mortality. Flying through vegetation, so we had to build something to sort of be just similar to that, right?
Okay.
And it took so much time, and then we started analyzing later on. So even when I got back to campus at Morgan to start my senior year, I was still working with them because we still had to analyze the data, right?
Right.
And then around this time, I'm going to be graduating in 14. This is in 13. You got to be applying for grad school if you're thinking about grad school, right? Before I left for the summer, I had a conversation with Stacy. I had like this draft thing about what I was going to do for NSF. And I was like, man, I want to do this, and I want to be, like train young girls to be in science and like, fly drones and stuff. I don't know. I was talking about stuff.
You had a lot of dreams. You had a lot of big dreams. Yeah.
I guess like for Stacey, she was impressed, and she was impressed by that and seeing how much I had developed this idea off of just being there for the summer. And it was a crazy idea, mind you. But it made so much sense to her, and I guess like just seeing it and reading it and reviewing it and helping me correct it and make it something.
Gotcha.
She just wanted to keep me around. I guess.
Right. Now, Stacy was the lab director at Harvard, right? She was the PI? That's who Stacy was, right?
She was
the principal PI investigator leading that research at Harvard University. So you told her, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm going to write this, I guess, fellowship proposal or grant proposal from NSF. And she was like, oh, okay, this young girl has ambition. So was that when she was like, come on back here again. I got money. I'll give you. What was it?
So what had happened was I applied to grad school, but I felt like
how many grad schools? Like a lot of different grad schools?
No, I didn't. For sure, I actually wasn't sold on grad school. I wasn't sold on, because I think what was happening to me at the time, even during that summer experience, like the financial part kind of was like dwindling. And I got an email from financial aid saying something about you've exhausted funds or something like that. I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't find. So what are you saying? Like, I can't pay for my senior year?
What? So, before you graduated, it was just like we don't know what else we could give you.
Right. And so with all of that on my mind, I was kind of like, yo, like I don't want to be like this poor student anymore. I just want like a job, maybe take a year off and go do some research. And but I did apply to grad school just because it sort of was a requirement for the program that I was in. I was in a research program on campus. I was in 2 research programs on campus actually. So I applied. I got an interview. It was at Washington, UW, Seattle.
Seattle, okay.
Right.
Whoa.
And then when I went over to Seattle for the interview, it was the PI. He was like, he took me in a corner. He was like, Teressa, I gotta tell you honestly, I'm not taking any students. He was like, I think you're amazing, and I want you to be here. That's why I wanted you to come to this interview to see if maybe you would have liked someone else and maybe like go into another lab. But I don't want to take students because I think I'm going to be leaving soon. So I was like, well, if it ain't you, I ain't want to go there. Like,
I know. Hey, you flew all the way out there, and he's like, I'm about to bounce. I just wanted you to come out here and see if you like it. But oh, wow.
Like, when the rejection started coming in, because I had applied to, I can't remember exactly how many schools I applied to, but then like when the rejection started coming in, Stacy and I had another conversation. What's your plan B? Like, what's going on? What do you plan to do? And then she was like, wait a minute. I got this weird email from this lady asking me about you. And basically, it seemed like she was offering something. I don't really know what it is, but I'll forward it to you. I was like, all right. I looked at the email, and it was basically the offer for a fellowship at Harvard to come back for. But they didn't say a time frame. It just was like, we want to offer you. You gotta come back. Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, and you know, it was sort of like a postbac program in a way, but not really.
But you got it though. You got this funding to go back to Harvard and continue the research that you had started earlier.
No, so that's how I.
No, not that. Oh, so you were in a different. Okay, but you go back to Harvard though. But like Stacy was like, hey, I got the email, so you got to go back to Boston, but not the same research. Okay, so what was it? What was it this time? Hey, shout out to Fashion, giving an applause. I love the story, but like it's like every time it seems like it's coming back full circle. You're like, but there's a twist.
Right. So,
all right. What's
graduating, ready to go off. I know that I have to leave in June and start off with the orientation and stuff. And then like, what happens is, when I get there, my PI, who I'm supposed to work with, she was like, Teressa, I accepted an offer at UC Davis.
Going to work with. Now they're like, hey, guess what? I'm about to go to the West Coast. Let me know how it works out here at Harvard. I just got a gig in Cali.
Basically, that's what happened. And I was like, okay. But she was like,
man.
She was like, basically, well, there's other great, you know, PIs in the departments. You know, you're here already. I don't want you to leave. You're here already. You know, look at it. I can recommend a couple of people that I know, that I trust and I know will do a great job. So look at these people. But throughout all the folks that I looked at in the departments, there's this lady who described her research as plants and physics. And I was
plants and physics.
Plants and physics smashed together, you know, and I'm like.
They might as well say Teressa Alexander. Teressa Alexander. Sound like something like that, right?
Right. I was like,
you were interested.
And I went to meet her. So I emailed her and I went to meet her. I told Stacy about it. I was like, there's she's called Noelle Michelle Holbrook, and I'm interested in her lab stuff. So I went to meet her. She's such a sweet lady, such a nice lady. The lab was such a great environment. The people in the lab are great. I knew nothing about plants, mind you. I haven't done any plant biology. Nothing. I don't know nothing about plants, right? And so they paired me with a postdoc, and I started working with a postdoc, and we were doing xylem function work, and it really was plants and physics. And it took me back to the idea of like, I knew that plant biomechanics existed, but I felt like this was my way into still being working with plants. You don't have to worry about listening to the animals screaming if you like was, you know, No, for me, it was kind of like, I didn't want to work with something that was like beating up, like,
Fighting you like, don't hurt me, or don't put that wire in the back of my leg. Like you ain't
right.
gotta worry about plants.
Yeah,
Anything
and I
like that.
didn't, like, and sometimes you have to euthanize animals or insects that you really
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
certain amount of
I can
trust.
imagine. I
So
can
that
imagine.
made me a
Yeah,
little sad, you know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
um, with plants, it's like I can cut a branch, I can cut a leaf. They're not gonna make any
yeah,
noise. They're not gonna swim, and it's gonna
yeah.
grow back. It's gonna grow
Yeah,
back.
yeah, they're good. They're good. Well, here's the
Yeah.
thing, Teresa. Like, and again, like this is a really interesting story, and I understand that this was like a 2 year fellowship, right? 2 year
Yeah, too.
fellowship at Harvard.
Yeah.
If you can explain, I guess, because that's how you got to where you are now, working in plants, right?
Yeah.
And you have this brand on IG, and you're posting a lot of creative stuff, making plants look cool. You're integrating yourself with the plants. Y'all gotta follow her. This is Teresa, man. She is off the chain, super creative. But answer this question first before we get into like some other stuff you're doing. But like, if you had to walk up to somebody on the street and they said, "All right, cool. I understand why you might want to create technology that mimics a bumblebee or something like that." Like, all right, that seems pretty cool. Why in the world do we need to be inspired by biomechanics of plants? All right, this is not like medicinal or anything like that, but where does the biomechanics of plants find relevance in just to me as a person, as a human?
I
Like,
think
break that down.
one of the most familiar things that you can apply, like a biochemical process of a plant, to
Okay.
function. The
And
so
xylem, what's that? What's xylem function? Xylem is what?
xylem is like those pipelines that run through the plants that
Okay.
it basically conducts water to all
Right.
the plant
Okay.
tissue, right? So there's
Thank
xylem
you.
in
Yeah.
roots, there's xylem in stems, xylem in leaves. But when I started working with plants the first time, the postdoc, his research was funded by the Air Force. And so
Okay.
I asked him, I was like, why is the Air Force funding your work? Like,
Uh-huh.
how are you gonna like insert plant stuff with like
With
jets?
butterflies. Yeah.
So he was
Yeah.
like, well, Teresa, xylem is like pipelines. It's like they're trying to see if we can inspire or create more efficient fuel lines for jets through what we learn in
Ah.
xylem.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's
That's
one of the.
deep. That's deep. No, that's really cool. That's really cool. And so now you're back after Harvard. You're back in the West Indies now, though, because I want to make
Yeah.
sure people know that you're still studying plants. And what exactly? How would you describe your role right now, as it now stands? After you finish the fellowship at Harvard, what are you doing right now?
So I do cocoa research, save the chocolate. um,
Say chocolate.
so
Okay.
yeah, so in the Caribbean region, they sort of section it off into the north. They could section off into northeast and southern. Trinidad
Uh-huh.
is in the southernmost part of the Caribbean region, and
Uh-huh.
based on climate change, in the next 30 to 50 years, you can expect drier conditions, and so drier conditions means agriculture as a whole is going to be affected, right?
Right.
And what I was specializing in when I was at Harvard was drought tolerance. And so what I'm trying to understand is how different types of cocoa trees
Okay.
behave under drought conditions. Like, is there
Yeah.
is there a type of cocoa that could actually withstand the effects of climate
No
change?
water. Like
Right.
no water, just
Right. So
resilient.
they're,
Yeah.
they're you're right, very resilient to drought conditions. Um, and so in Trinidad, they've had success with breeding different cocoa plants that are disease resistant, but
Hmm.
they haven't really focused on drought tolerance, as climate
Okay.
change is a huge topic now, right? And,
Right.
and
Right.
yeah, and cocoa production has been a long-standing thing in this country for over basically 200 years. It's been
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
and so it's sort of a way. So we want to revitalize the industry, And so if you want to revitalize the industry, you got to think about sustaining this crop for the next 50 years. And if we're thinking about, if we're talking about climate change, we got to find a way to maybe create more drought tolerant trees, also have it to continue to be disease resistant. But drought tolerance is an important topic right now.
It is. And man, every time I talk to someone like yourself, there's always like more specialization that you can get into, right? Because like you start off talking about biomechanics and bio-inspired technologies. I can wrap my mind around that, but now you're like, okay, can we find plants that are able to do what they do and figure out how well they can behave given the environmental changes and the climate change and all that? Like there's so many different like avenues that you can go down. What I do find is full circle though of your career, even though I'm sure we've been following you along and there's more twists that could come up, is that you're back at home in the West Indies. How do you like being back home in Trinidad? Back home, you still living in your mini Wayne at home?
Yeah, so I love it. I mean, every year that I spend, so I spent 10 years in the States, but every year I made sure to come home at least once a year.
Right.
I'm like a diehard, like tree to the bone person. So I was like,
to the bone, ropey. You need your okay. You need your carnival. You need your carnival.
Yeah, I need a carnival. So I was like, man, I wish I could have an avenue to just go back home. I mean, when my PI and I, when we were talking about, grad school, I was just kind of like, yo, I want to be somewhere warm.
Right.
And I want to really work with tropical plants. That's what I told her. And that's kind of how I just kind of ended up back here, because she's the one that actually found my advisor. And it's a huge move, yes, but I love being home. I miss home. I love the fact that it's warm all year long.
Yeah.
And carnival.
Wow. You say in carnival?
Yes.
Absolutely, in carnival. I had one of my biggest mentors growing up was Trinidadian, and man, his wife cooked. I mean, I went over his house, best food every time I went over. I knew it was good. But nah, absolutely, much love to Trinidad and Tobago. Much love to Tobago as well. Y'all, this is Teressa Alexander. Teressa, I want to talk a little bit about, in our remaining minutes, we don't got much time, but I want to talk about some of the brands and your work you've been doing. Just to really help uplift and empower people. I know you're the co-founder of STEM Noir. Shout out to Dr. Keelan Bishop. She was on the show in the past. There you go. There we go. It's got the shirt on. Y'all got to check them out, STEM Noir, here on Instagram. But you also are the creator of STEM Caribbean Media. Talk a little bit about that, what you're doing to uplift voices in the Caribbean, STEM voices.
Yeah, so as an undergrad, I actually registered a business back when I was an undergrad. Coming back home all the time, I was just like, I'm going to register this business. I don't know why I'm going to do it, but I'm going to register it anyway. And it was called, it is called Think Tank Caribbean Network. And I wanted it to be a pool of Caribbean intellects, basically coming together and creating this great programs and stuff for youth. And so that's kind of where it came from. And then I was like, had this idea, like I'm going to create this database of Caribbean professionals and scientists, because I didn't know any when I was coming up, and I really want to young people who had the same experience as I am having, or I had. And so I wanted to create this database of all the Caribbean scientists I could possibly find and let them share their stories and stuff to inspire the youth in the Caribbean to get into STEM education. I didn't know exactly how I was going to communicate those things or how I was going to kind of share those opportunities. So while I was home, I did this workshop for creating apps. But that didn't work out.
It didn't work out.
Right? I was like, I don't really think this is it. I feel like when I started to speak to undergrads who are on campus and speak to young people, I felt like just them not knowing exactly what a Caribbean scientist does, or introducing people, sharing their story, because I felt like that in itself is extremely inspiring, because if you can see someone in the UK doing awesome work, and they went to the same secondary school you went to. It will
It
feel
does.
very
It does. Inspires
inspirational,
you. Yes.
and it's something I can accomplish, you know.
Right. Totally. Totally.
So I started sharing people, and actually was dragging some of my friends behind the camera.
Yeah.
So this is how it started last year, where I started sharing people. But it started a couple of years before that, dragging my friends in front of the camera, taping them doing their work, taping them in their labs.
I think I saw some stuff on YouTube, right? Like you got some stuff on YouTube. Yeah. Shout out, y'all gotta check it out. I put the handles down. Stir the War and Stick River Media. Okay.
And then only last summer I started like making more of a collection of it, and I was like just hitting up friends. I was like, I want to tape you doing your projects, and I'm gonna answer these questions on camera. And they're like, all right, sure, I'll help you. You know?
Yeah. No, that's dope. And then now you put it out there, and I think it's so cool because like obviously I'm in the STEM media space as well, and when I came across it, I was like, I love it. This is a different angle. I feel like there's so many angles and so much culture and the relatability and even lifestyle that's blended with a lot of the technical studies and research that needs to be seen because, as you said, and as somebody said in the comments, this representation inspires people, helps people to see it more as a possibility for their lives. And even as we are peers in it, right? We support each other when we see, oh, you know what I'm saying? She finished that project. Oh man, she got through the semester. Oh man, she's doing a great job over there. It encourages us. It's inspiring as we inspire.
And interestingly enough, I thought I was just sharing their stories or whatever, but it in turn actually inspires them too because there's like a plethora of congratulations and you're doing awesome work, and it really helps the people that I am featuring continue to just be great on what they're doing.
Yes.
To inspire others. I didn't see that part when I was just sharing it. I was just sharing it because I felt like it needed to be shown, but then it actually turned around into something inspiring for the person who was featured. So
totally. Shout out to BTC STEM. She dragged me on the camera. Yes, absolutely. I can relate to, you get inspired sometimes when you hear yourself talk about your journey. And I really hope that this does that for you, Teressa, because you've been just really a great guest. And I would hate for us to miss your parting words of wisdom, but Instagram does a hard stop at the end. But I just want to, first of all, like just affirm you and all that you're doing. And I hope that there's more we can do to collaborate because like you watch the show, you comment, like there's always a lot of like interaction that we've got. Well, this is like the first time. Honestly, this is the first time I even heard what your voice sound like today. Like I didn't even know what your voice. Like I knew you was like Caribbean. I was like I don't even know which accent. I was like, which accent is she gonna hit us with? It's gonna be, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know which one, but it's been nothing but.
I tell people I have a remix voice because
you got the remix.
You gotta switch up. Like when I started working, like no one. When I always tell people like fresh off the boat, no one knew what I was saying. No one. And people.
Nobody.
And sometimes people say disrespectful things because they can't understand you. So I'm like, all right, let me kind of switch it up. So I call my voice a remix voice because I lived in Maryland, I lived in Massachusetts, and then I'm back in Trinidad.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Well, hey, listen, we literally have like a minute and a half for you to tell us what's coming down the pipe, and then just hit us with some parting words of wisdom before we say goodbye.
All right. Well, for STEM program media right now, we're planning to do a bit more. We're growing. Stuff is coming. We're still developing, but we're still going to be continuing to share inspiring stories from Caribbean intellects. And I guess like my parting words would be just do what you feel called to do and do the work. I did not foresee me having all these route changes. But it always turned out for the best and better than I actually expected it to. So I felt like I always thought like I had things figured out, but when you're going through life, it pulls you in another direction because you feel so close to do exactly that, and you're like, all right, let me just do this. And it actually turns out to be the best thing. Me being home is the best thing for me because I was able to create things that I wanted to create for years, right? And really be among Caribbean people. And so, just do what you feel called to do and do the work because it's hard work is gonna pay off. You gotta do
Hey, y'all, give her some more hearts, man. You got a lot of amens coming through. Shout out to Corey, Dr. Corey Grayson. We see you. We see you, Kelly. We see everybody coming through, supporting that. Do the work. Man, Teressa, you have been a great guest. You've been fantastic. Man, like, if y'all are following her, go follow her and look at her awesome posts. You do a lot of cool, really quick. I know it's going to cut us off, but what inspires those posts, too? Like, I just had to ask you about that. Like, you have posts with, like, you with abstract art. I love the plant science
photography.
Yeah.
I love abstract art. The one with the tree where I'm with the tree, that's one of my favorite trees. I love mangrove trees. So like yes.
Yes. Y'all gonna go follow her. Y'all gonna go follow her and see what we're talking about. But Teressa, thank you so much. I hope you have a great week. Thank you so much for coming to STEMedia Live. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Yes.